everybody, welcome to another Jac Jac Productions, and I am your host, Jac Jac. Um, Yesterday, I was supposed to have been doing this podcast, but as you know, some of you probably know, and some don't know that I had a situation helping a friend with their Digitraxx, and we fought that thing for 5 hours trying to get that damn thing to stop overloading. But there's one component that makes an overload on Digitraxx, and it is, let me grab it 1 second, hold on. Here it is. These are Pico switches. Pico switches are a pain in the butt for a Digitraxx command station. And the reason why is because you have insulated and non-insulated. And the whole thing, reason why I got rid of them is just for this, because it's always overloading. And the quality of these run out if you have a switching layout like mine. And I got fed up with them. They are good switches, no doubt, hands down. One of the best switches out there. But I decided to go with a fast track boost to row switch because it's in fact, they don't overload. And another thing, I don't have to fight them, the repair on them. The repair on his switches are far more easier than dealing with this, because once it's messed up and broke, woo, you toss it. Sorry, girl, didn't mean to do that. Anyway, so what happened yesterday involved a Pico switch. For 5 hours, we was fighting this. He had already killed all the power to all the drops. He unplugged all the drops to the bus line, because he had a bus line go all the way around the layout. Took all the drops off. He then took everything off the command station. Took all the, unplugged the command station, throttles and everything. We took care of that. The next thing we did is I had him pull where he had started, he had changed the table around. He took a table like this section and turned it around so it would go back around so he could go in the door. Instead of going under the layout, he turned the layout around so he wouldn't have to go under the layout, and then it looped all the way back around. That's pretty neat, pretty innovative, something different, because he's getting old and he can't go under that table like that anymore. Whereas me, I can still go under the table. But over a period of time, it's going to come to a point where I'm going to have to find a way to change it around so I don't have to go under the table. But anyway, situation was this right here. This Pico, 5 hours. It took us 5 hours, but he'd been fighting this thing for over a week, trying to figure out what went wrong. Because he did his layout almost 2 weeks ago, had it running, and then all of a sudden, it stopped running. Apparently, when he got to the side where he turned the table around, it hit an overload. Don't know how, don't know why, but it hit an overload. So, just like any Duro switch, and just like any switch that's insulated or non-insulated, you have to do two things to this. Have to do actually one thing to this if you're going to do a crossover or go back into a loop. But you have to insulate it. And the best ones to insulate are the inside. You don't have to insulate the outside. It's always the inside that you insulate. That's where your overloads come from. It's because, if you think about it, the outside rails are in a continuous run. There is nothing blocking it from going. Okay, same way here. But when you get to the frog area of the switch, there comes a situation where it has to cross. And so that's where that plastic comes into play and the wires that comes in. So it jumps the wire, jumps from one side of the plastic to the other side, which is fine. But when you're doing a crossover, you got two powers going in on the outside and you have two powers going in on the inside and they're crossing over. That's where you put the insulators on the inside. Either one, it doesn't matter which one you put it on, you need to put it on one or the other. I put it on both of them just to save the hassle of anything happening. Now I used to insulate both sides. One of the, if it's going in, the crossover going over here, I would insulate both sides with this rail. But now, come to find out, all I have to insulate is this one side going into the divert. Right here. This one is our insulator. Okay. What had happened was he had to insulate on the wrong side when he was going in back into the loop. Not a reverse loop, but back into the loop around the layout. Because he had two double loops going in. And when he turned the table, the power was still on the rails. Okay, the power was still on the rails. This stuff holds power. DC is sort of like a computerized rail. It was still holding that digital rail in the rail. So when he powered it up, and when that engine went around, what had happened was when he hit that contact, the engine and the old rail that still had the power in it couldn't figure out what was, didn't know which was which. It's kind of confusing. I know it don't make any sense. But like I said, it still had power in the rail. So when you did that, hold on, let me see. Hold on, guys. Let me see what the comments say. I don't have my phone. Hold on. Exactly, Conrail. Exactly. I know. I understand your pain. That's the reason why I got rid of them. But like I was saying, when he turned it around, it still had that power in there. And when that engine hit that switch, he had the old power and the new power for some reason. And I guess it somehow got crossed and it just overloaded the whole system. And it was just in that one section of the layout because he turned that section, cut the table and turned it around and then rerouted the line with the old rail still in there. It's confusing and it's crazy. So when I got there, I told him insulate both sides of that switch. So this is not the right switch. I need to get the right, but it was going this way and it was going straight. So what he did was he insulated the straight side and then and left this going straight into the other rail, which still was holding the old power on the other side. And so it was still overloaded. So I was like, let's troubleshoot this here on out. So we went from plant A, B, C, D. We went all the way to damn Z and still couldn't figure out the overload. So he said he finally figured a solution. He took some clips with wires on them, like jumper cables. And what he did was he put jumper cable the power. We put one here, one here, one here, and one here on the end. We didn't put them on this end. We put them on this end first. We looked around there, the overload was still there. Okay, so what he did was, I said, take the insulator out on one side. Take the insulator out on one side of the rail, which is going here. So he took the insulator out and put a regular rail joint in there. Put it in there. So we had just These two insides, and this had the regular rail jar. Took these two. Then he took the jumper cables, put one on this side of the track, up here on this side, and put one on the back side off the points. Once he did that, the overload killed. And you talking about some pissed off, I was pissed because I was pissed because it took us 5 hours to figure out that all he had to do was put the insulators on the inside, not on the outside. Put the insulators on one or the other. It doesn't matter which one on the inside to kill the cross on the Pico, because all he has is Picos. Kill the insulator here and keep these open. You don't put insulators on these rails. You always put them on the inside. I was pissed because it took us 5 hours to figure out that was the issue. And he used jumper cables, I call them jumper cables, and jumped the power from one side of the Pico to the other side, killing the power out of the old table because it was sitting there holding in there because it didn't have nowhere to go. So it's just sitting there. So, word of the wise, whenever you use a Pico switch, always insulate the inside of the Pico, never the outside. That's how you troubleshoot your overload. And if you still have an overload, take the insulator from one side and put them on the divert side. But never, I always learned this from him, to never put the insulators on the outside rails. Majority of your issues is going to be on these two. Okay, it's a pain in the ass with Pico switches. It's a pain in the ass, period. Hands down. I swear, y'all, these things, I can't deal with them no more. That's why I got rid of them, because they're a pain in the ass for overloads. Now, you can put an Atlas switch, a Shinar, however you say it, those switches, someone else, some other net brand, those switches don't carry overloads because they don't have this insulator on there and the power just runs straight through. But sometimes it depends on what type of switch you're using. Definitely these Picos. They're a pain in the ass for overloads, especially when you're dealing with Digitraxx. So just remember, always start the insulators from the inside, never put them on the outside. So that is my rant about overloads in Digitraxx. What I was gonna do today was finish talking about track planning, planning your track for switching or continuous run, point to point, all those kind of things that involve your layout. But since that happened yesterday, it just flustered me yesterday. I was just totally flushed and I was pissed because 5 hours of my life was gone because of the Digitraxx. Now, as you can see, I do have a layout running. I had it running all last night. I fell asleep with it running, and I just turned it back on a few minutes ago. These engines here, these rivet counter engines, I have now 1, 2, 3. I have 3 of them now. The Norfolk Southern is sitting right here, right behind the camera on the programming track. I let it sit there because I was adjusting the ditch lights in the back because I didn't want them flashing. These babies take some power. 1 amp per engine. And I have a 5 amp box. So that lets you know it can get hot when I put all 3 of them on here and run them. The plan is to use my other box. I have to get a booster because the booster that I got right now, this MRC, don't have enough juice to hold these big girls. And that is going to happen sometime after next week. I'm gonna go on and buy a booster for it. So that's pretty much it on that. But always remember, whenever you get a river counter engine from Scale Trains, be prepared for the amount of amps it put out, because it put out almost 1 point some amps, almost over 1 amp. So be mindful of that, and if you do plan on getting a bigger booster, because I know I'm going to need a bigger booster. Not a booster, but a bigger booster and another command station, so I can split the power. But track planning, number one thing I want to talk about. Always remember, track planning consists of money, time, and maintenance. Just like any other thing in this hobby or any hobby. Time, money, and maintenance. It takes time to prepare. It takes time to build. It takes time to buy what you want over a period of time. And it takes time to maintain it. And the number one thing I'm finding right now with these river counter engines is I have to make sure that this track everything runs good with the track planning, track laying. And I haven't had any issues except if they're on that switch coming out of the out of four rail. That's because it's a real small curve switch, and these engines cannot take less than a 24. I know it says on the box 22 radius. That's a lot. These things need a nice size curve switch, curve. So right now, most of the curves on here is between a 26 to a 28 to a 30. And the Giro switches are 30, 31. So it's a smooth transition into that switch on the divert side. But preparing for any kind of layout takes time to plan ahead. You have to plan ahead. Plan months ahead of time. So if your drop date is the drop track is August 1st, then around about this time you need to start planning how much track you need, how big of a layout it's going to be, and then how much track you're going to need. Then what type of layout is it going to be? Is it going to be a continuous run? Or is it going to be a point-to-point with the continuous run, or a switching operation layout, which is a point-to-point with a 4-point system, because it's always 4 points on a system when it's a point-to-point. Take time to prepare. Make sure whatever you get is final before you buy it. If you're going to go with just straight tank cars like I got and start going doing the hoppers later, budget your money on what you want to get. If you're going to get a Scale Trains, you see how much they cost. And majority of their tank cars, hoppers, some they come in, you can order them in the bulk, which is a reduced price. I'm not trying to give Scale Trains all the advertisement. I'm not trying to, but that's who I deal with, because in fact there's always a discount involved when you buy or in bulk. So I recommend you to look closely at what you're planning on putting on your layout. If you're going to use a gondola, make sure that gondola is going to be used for a certain thing, whatever it may be. And I did a formula a while back. It's on my page on how many rail cars you need per layout on your layout, depending on how many spot and drops and how many build companies you're going to need on your layout. And that's the part of planning your layout. How much trackage and how much rail cars you're going to need. So I did this formula based on 4 points: yard service. Say, for instance, from Corsicana to Ennis, We got a yard here in Corsicana. We have a siding in Ennis, which can hold about a mile and a half, almost 2 miles of cars in Ennis. This yard supplies this company in Corsicana with 4 cars. They need 4 cars. So if it's 4 cars that need to be in the plant, then at that yard over there at the Corsicana yard, it needs to have at least another 4 cars in there. And then over in Ennis, it needs to have in the siding 4 cars, and at the processor 4 cars. So that's 16 cars in all that you need for that point to point. Okay, because it's 4 cars times 4 points, 16. If you have a 2-car drop, a 2-car drop going from one point to the other point, same situation, Corsicana to Ennis. Coming out of the yard, going to the service, 2 cars there at the company, 2 cars in the yard, 2 cars at the siding in Ennis, and 2 cars at the processor. So 2 times 4 is 8 cars. 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 cars. But you can always add a car, 1 car, so you have that 1 extra car. I didn't say this in the last one, but if you want to, you can always add that 1 extra car per yard. So say, for instance, we got 2 over there, 2 in the yard, we add 1 to the car in the yard, and we add 1 to the car in the siding, okay? And then we have 2 there. So 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, actually 9 cars, because we got 8, actually 10 cars, because we added 2 cars, 1 over here and 1 here, so it was 10 cars. So take the time to find out how many cars you need for your layout. Right now, I did my math, and I needed 64 cars for my layout, 64, but I got 75 tank cars, okay? So that gives me a buffer of cars to stay in the yard or on the siding over there. So that's one of the most important things you have to do is do an estimate or budgetize how much rail stock you're going to need for your layout. Doesn't make any sense to go with 400 cars and you have, let's say you have 400 cars on your layout, but you don't have the facilities to expedite those cars. You understand what I'm saying? Doesn't make any sense to have 400 cars, 800 cars, 1,000 cars when you know that car is not going to a spot and drop. You understand what I'm saying? That's just waste of money, period. Totally waste of money. And how many engines do you need for your layout? Well, I always said 25 per 25 cars equal 1 engine. I have 75 cars, 75 tank cars plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 84. I have 85 cars on my layout right now, 86 if you count the flatbed as a buffer car. So if I have 86 cars on here, 25 per engine. So that's 75, that's 3 car engines. I'm already too many engines already on my layout. I have 8 engines plus I have 10 engines already on my layout. 10 engines. I have 8 -9s and 2 of the 4 axles, a -7 or a -8, and then the G39, which are my switchers. But as you know, since I've been getting these -9s and I love them to death, I have almost too many engines for my layout. Am I wasting money? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes, it is. It really is. I love them. They're beautiful. When you see something you want, and this is the problem, and this is the exact problem that everybody has. When they get that first beautiful engine, the mind goes into that situation where I say, man, I got to get another one of those Sunday guns because they are beautiful. And that's what has happened to me. I have gotten into that zone where I'm spending money on engines when I know I shouldn't spend money on them, but I love them. So there's that addiction that I was talking about the other day, that addiction to this hobby. Because once you see something and once you like it, you're going to buy it. When you know you don't need it, and this is a prime example, I'm actually going out of my comfort zone into this wild obsession right now, and I need to stop. And that is the addiction to this hobby. When we see something and we love it to death, we're going to get it no matter what. So that's one of those things that I was talking about, that addiction to this hobby. And we got to learn how to control that addiction. And we have to put a stop to the addiction because it will grab you and it will suck you in real fast. So, am I going to stop buying engines? I think about it. I think about it. I need one more engine. I got to get one more made. But in my defense, if I want to get another engine, what I will do is sacrifice for what I want because the new Gevos, the new Tier 4 Gevos will be out next month. So my opinion and my idea is if I want to, and I will, I'll get rid of the operators to get my Gevos, to scale river counter. So that's my plan. I will get rid of the operators and save some money that way by getting rid of the operators. And I'll get my river counters. Make sense? I think it does to me. So to kill that addiction I will sacrifice something to get what I want. I don't hold on to anything on this layout that I don't actually need, but it is something I really want, like these derivative counter engines, because they are the shit. I will do that. And I don't, I am feeding into my addiction right now. And so we need to have a podcast. I think this is going to be an ideal come up soon. I hope someone come up with it. It's going to be the Model Railroad Anonymous, MRA, and I will be the first one to say, Harold, hello, my name is Harold Jackson, and I am addicted to Model Railroad. So I think that is going to be one of the big things what someone needs to do is have a MRA meeting, and we need to set that up as soon as possible. Oh man, but that is one of those things. Hold on one second, let me check chat. I'm sorry guys, I'm just random. I forgot about chat. Hold on. No, I did not mess up any engines. No, we did not mess up all the engines. Everything is fine. Everything is beautiful. If you're talking about the Norfolk Southern on my, referring to the Norfolk Southern, all I was doing is getting rid of that flashing. I hate that flashing. I used to love the flashing, but I don't want my engines to flash the ditch lights anymore. So that's the reason why I getting rid of that. And come to find out, a while ago, earlier, one of my ditch lights don't work on my Norfolk Southern engine. And I just got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to box it up and send it back to Scale Trains because I have a warranty on it. And let them, and I'll put a note in there and let them know my ditch lights, and one of my ditch lights not working, and they'll give me a call and when they get it and find out what the issue is and send it back to me. All I do is pay for the shipping to ship it to them, and they'll send it back. That's why I love Scale Trains. Top of the line, great customer service. hands down, period. I have no issues with that. Anyway, but back to track planning. Um, Track planning involves inventory of rail stock, engines, buildings, trees, ballasts. And one thing I told y'all on my last podcast, the very first podcast, if you're planning on going to a train show anytime in the next year, the next season of the train show start next season, is to, when you go to a train show, always, 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 this is top priority. First thing, you look for scenery because it's always going to be sold in the bulk and it's cheap. And you always look down on the floor because they always put it under the table where hardly anybody ever looks. And if you pull it out and you see the scenery, you ask them how much for the box. They're going to give you a price and just talk $3 or $4 down on it. Okay? Talk your way down on the price. The next thing you look for after your scenery is your rolling stock. Always go for the rolling stock second. Then go for the engines third. The reason why I say the engines last is because they cost the most. And majority of the time, not a lot of people go and try to buy an engine at a train show. But if you do, make sure you look closely at the engine. Put it on a test track. If someone has a test track set up, you buy it, you take that engine, and you go put it on the test track. Make sure that it works before you buy that engine, okay? And if they don't have a test track set up somewhere in front, find one. A lot of those displays that they have there, they don't mind putting your engine up there to test it on their layout. Put it up there. They will do that for you. Okay? Take the time to check the engine before you buy it. And if you think it's good enough to be bought and everything runs properly, then you buy it. But do not ever buy an engine without putting it on a test track at the train show. Okay? That is the number one thing a lot of us walk out of there thinking that it's, for example, I bought an engine last year. I asked him, I said, is this sound? He said, yeah, it's already got DCC sound in it. Everything works properly. I said, how much is for this engine? Oh, I want $85 for it. Okay, cool. So what I did, and I forgot to do this, and that was on me. That was totally on me. I said, open up the engine. He was like I said, man, it's got sound in it. Everything worked. Here you go for $85. I said, dude, I got $60. I'll buy it from you for $60. Sold. How about here? Give me your money. All right. Got the engine. Took it home. Put it on the track. Pushed in the engine number. It didn't move. Put in 03. It moved. I pushed 8 for sound. It didn't do any damn thing. I pushed 2 for the horn. Didn't do any damn thing. Pushed 1 for the 1 for the bell. Didn't do a damn thing. Some of them bitch lied to me, so I touched the engine, took it out, opened it up. It had a sound decoder in it, but it didn't have no damn speaker in the some bitch. You talking about mad? I was mad, but I was all right because I had one of these just in case. I bought a Shippy Q speaker just in case. I always keep one just in case. Always keep these around and just in handy, just in case. So I soldered the speaker wire in, put everything in, turned the sound on, The engine turned on. The sound was great. Good sound quality. I did change the sound. And I was like, okay, fine and dandy. Lesson learned. If they say it has sound in it and it's not in a box, if it's not in a scale train box, if it's not in a scale train box, if it's not in an Atlas box, if it's not in a Walters box, if it's not in any manufactured box, and it's sitting up there on a display, and he says, and he has on it, it says DCC sound, do not touch that engine and do not buy that engine until you go and put it on the test track and make sure that it has sound, the lights and everything works on it. Because that's how they get you with some of these engines. Because they, piss me off. So that's my little rant about train shows and engines. Always wait last to buy an engine. Buy your scenery, buy your rolling stock, buy your engine last. And if you have to get tools, any type of tool for your layout, clippers, rail clippers, or anything, get those as well with the scenery. Trust me, get those with your scenery. But always get scenery first. So the next train show, God, I'm praying that it'll be in Temple this coming September. And the number one thing I'm going to start stocking up on is scenery because I'm running low on scenery. Actually, I'm running low on ballast. Ballast is the hardest thing to find at a train show, other than foliage and all that stuff for trees and everything. You will never run out of foliage and stuff for trees because that's the number one thing that they have at the train shows in the boxes under the table is foliage and all that stuff. Grab as much of it as you can. Always, always get your scenery first. And then everything else, rolling stock, second, engines last. Tools go with the, is also required in the scenery stuff. So, track planning, like I said, track planning takes time and you have to be prepared for any and everything. And if you use a switch, I prefer Zeros, booster roll switches. I had to plug that in there. If you use a Pico switch, make sure it is a good, brand new, out of the box switch. Do not ever buy a Pico switch from a train show because the majority of the time, if it's not in a box, if it's not brand new, it's not good. And if they're trying to sell it to you, you say, I only want this. If you're selling that Pico switch to me and it's not in a box, I'm not buying that thing no more than $10 or less. Anything other than that, you're getting robbed out of a tip. You're going to get robbed because if it's not in a box, no. And I look at it this way: if an engine is not in a box, if a rail car is not in a box, if a switch is not in a box, if those three things are not in a box, the manufacturer original box, the value of that is thrown out the window. You get it from however much you want because it's like you can't trust the quality of that product being out of the box. You understand what I'm saying? That's just me, my opinion. And I used to buy a lot of rolling stock. I used to buy a lot of rolling stock out of the box at train shows. I stopped doing that. I don't do that no more. If it's not in the box, if it's not in the original box where it's been sold at, and they trying to sell it to you for over $30, don't get it because either something wrong with it, something missing from it, and it ain't worth your time and money to buy it. Make sure it's in a box. And make sure it's in the original box. And make sure you check everything before you buy it. All right? My advice and my alone advice. You don't have to take my advice. I'm not trying to tell you how to shop, but that's just my opinion and my advice to you to make sure you check any and everything you buy at a training show. But I prefer the number one thing to get is scenery, 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 and tools. Scenery, 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 tools. All right. Put that over there. Let me check real quick. Hold on, guys. Hold on. It's the 78s, fan, Norfolk Southern. Say, Norfolk Southern fan, where did you get that information that Norfolk Southern and CSX was merged? They have never been merged. There is not a merger. There's not going to be a merger. There is no merger in play. I had to do some research on that, and there is no merger whatsoever. So they're not merging. Uh, they're not even merging. They're not even a joint company now. So I just had to let you know they're not merged. They're not separating. They never been a merger. So, all right. I just had to let you know about that. Conrail and Norfolk Southern split. What are they going to split? What? Conrail don't even have. They're not splitting, son. There is no split. They're not splitting. There's not going to be a split. And the question is, if they split, where are they going to split to? All the trackage, the old Conrail trackage, has been either sold to small rail companies or bought out by Norfolk Southern and CSX. So if Conrail is splitting from Norfolk Southern, where would they go and how would that happen? It's virtually impossible for once a company merges to split. That's not going to happen. I have not seen anything about the split whatsoever. That's not going to happen. I don't know where that information came from, but Norfolk Southern is part of Conrail. They merged, and once they merge, they're not splitting. They can't split. Conrail don't have the Conrail don't even have the resources to make that split. They don't have the tracks anymore. All the tracks are, like I said, they're either bought by other small rail companies, they're either pulled up, or they are either all controlled by Norfolk Southern. And Norfolk Southern is not going to give up track that they already bought in the merger, which happened way back in the late 90s, late 90s. That's virtually impossible for them to do. What you say? Yeah, they got their locomotives and they took their track and they took the track, the locomotives, they took everything. They split the company. CSX and Norfolk Southern split their company. They bought all that stuff. There's not going to be a split. They can't split. Conrail cannot do anything. Conrail doesn't even exist anymore. Conrail, once that happened, they can't come back. It's virtually impossible for a Conrail to come back. They don't have the money, they don't have anything. And then they have to get all that track and everything. It's not happening. I've not heard anything about this. I even took a look at it on Google. I Googled it. I went to their website. I went to CSX and Norfolk Southern website. There is nothing about this happening. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. That's crazy. It's not happening. But it made a good debate with me and some guys, and they was like, "That's not happening." Period. And I had to do more research. I mean, Friday when you said that, I had to actually go and look this stuff up because I was like, man, that's That's crazy. It's not happening at all. No, no, bruh. No, it's not happening. But anyway, back to what I was talking about: train shows, track planning, doing all the little things that are important for a good operational layout is so important to just take the time to look at plans in advance before you start put down your first piece of track, tie that track down, and all that good stuff. You have to take the time to look at money wise, your money, and how much time you're going to be spending in there, and all this good stuff. It's just a very important thing before you just start doing all this. And make sure you don't feed the addiction like I'm actually doing right now. I'm feeding my addiction, and I have to stop feeding this addiction because I've gotten addicted to these babies right here. This is Norfolk Southern. Oh man, if I could have got two more of these son of a guns here. This is my addiction now that I'm craving because this is becoming a problem. Am I going to be broke? Nah. Financially wise, I'm fine and everything, but I have to stop this addiction for these babies here. This baby here, I love her. And the river counter is coming around the corner. It's become an addiction that I have to stop. So I have to stop and stop quickly. So that's going to conclude this podcast for today. Um, in a little while, I will be coming back live, and I'm going to be putting one of these together live, this modern platform together. Um, Hold on, let me get the box. This baby right here. The Walters modern loading platform for loading racks. And it comes with 4 modern rail racks in it. And you can use them for tankers, tractor trailer tankers, or you can use them for hoppers, for loading and unloading hoppers, loading and unloading tank cars. Mine majority is for tank cars, but the next ones I'm going to be doing is going to be for the hoppers. There is a unloading piece somewhere on here, right down here on this one. You can't see it, but there is an unloading pipe that you can use to unload from the bottom of your rail car or tank cars or whatever. There's an unloading piece. So I'm going to be putting this together live in a little while. I did 3 of them. I got 1 more, plus I got 4 more the other day that I did on my mail drop. So I'm going to be doing it live, and I hope to see you all there. That's going to happen in an hour or so. I need to prepare and get everything situated. So, like I said, that's going to conclude this. I hope you all enjoyed this update and everything. Update my podcast for Digitraxx earlier, dealing with Digitraxx and overloads. I hope that comes handy for their switches. And like I said, whenever you use a Pico switch, and if you're going to use it as a crossover, or you're going to use it to do a siding or a spur, you don't have to worry about a spur because it deads in. But if you time it back into a track, or a main, if you're going to build a siding, you have to insulate the inside. Never the outside, it's always the inside. Okay? I believe it's always this one here, the divert side. You insulate the divert side. Okay? Like I said, I got rid of mine. I can't deal with them. They're a pain in the ass. Not trying to knock Pico switches, because they are good switches, but if you run a switching operation like this and you're doing this back and forth, this wears out over a period of time. And this is practically a brand new one that I bought like 2 years ago. I believe 2 years. I bought this 2 years ago, and it's still in good condition. Still has the little clip spring in it, but that clip spring, when I do switching, wears out. So the number one thing you have to make sure, if you do not put scenery on these switches, try your best to avoid putting scenery on your Pico switches. You can paint it, but cover the points, cover the joint line, from the joint line all the way down to the points, you cover that, but everything else you can paint. But do not put scenery on these things, because the lifespan on these will wear out quickly, okay? So, I got this is a Giroux switch. Bruce Giroux makes these switches. I'm going to throw them in here because these are the best. Any fast track switch that has been handmade are by far the best ones to be used, because the points don't die like the Pico. These things last forever. And the maintenance on these are so easy. So easy. I guarantee you will save a whole lot of money on these than using Picos. And I've been having these. I had majority of these for a year already, and I have not had to deal with a lot of maintenance on them. And I pick these up, and I do a lot of. So I always change my layout, but these are still intact pretty much. And the only thing that comes apart is the PC ties that I can solder back. I can solder the PC ties back. I can glue this wood panel back, but I do not ever want to put scenery on these unless I am putting it down permanently. But like hell no, I ain't putting no scenery on this because of the wood. This is actually balsa wood on these switches. And some of them are not even balsa wood, it's pretty much solid wood. Some of them do make them in solid wood. Now Bruce Giroux is planning on, in the near future, to just make the skeletons without the wood. Is it cheaper? Yes, a whole lot cheaper. I'm thinking about having them do that next year, and then I'll just add the wood myself, because there's a certain way that these are done when you do the wood yourself, because you want to have that authentic look when you do it yourself. But I tell you what, I've not had a lot of issues with these at all. Are they worth the money? Yes. Do they last long? Yes. As long as you know how to take care of them. And I now have, I think I have 32 Giroux switches on this layout so far. And I just ordered some more. So they're very, very good switches, top of the line switches. So I recommend, if you have the time and the money, to invest in some Giroux switches. They're worth it, every penny of it. All right. So I just had to plug Giroux and Bruce in. Thank you, Bruce. So that concludes my podcast. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm going to try to get back on track like I said, Saturdays at 2 o'clock, and hopefully I will. Nothing like yesterday happens where I had to spend 5 hours working on a layout, helping with an overload, but it happens. So thank y'all all for coming. I appreciate your support. Um, my layout is your layout when I'm online, but when I go live. But after that, it's my layout, damn it. But like I said, what's mine, I try to share it to you all. And to plug this in, I'm gonna let everybody know right now that's in here and who's watching this video. I plan on getting more rivet counter engines, and those 4 engines will be up for sale in the next few weeks, not few months, few weeks. I will not post a price just yet on how much they're gonna go, but they're gonna go almost half price. They will be half price. So if I paid $149 for an engine, then figure that out, half price, okay? So in a few weeks, I will let everybody know when I'm going to give up one of those engines, okay? And this engine here, this engine here, also, so it's actually 5 of them that will be for sale for half price. So I'm letting everybody know now in the next few weeks when it's going to happen. In a few weeks, I will let you know when it's going to happen. But right now, I'm waiting on them to release the new Tier 4 G-Rolls because I want a KCS and I want a UB to replace those. So I'm probably going to get 3 more of the G-Rolls and 2 UPs and a Norfolk Southern. So that's that on that. So if you're interested in a half price scale train engine with sound operators, this is a operator with drop sound in it. Okay. So, all right. That is that. I'm done. Thank you all for coming. And I will all see you all later in about an hour from now. Until then, take care.